Carla, please share your amazing journey as a single mom, as a stress specialist, and share a little bit about this scan that you have going on in the background right now that we'll present to people a little later on this interview. But first, please give an overview of who you are and what you do.
Oh, I guess you're all going to ask questions in between. Otherwise, I'm that long on word. No, I'm trying to keep it pretty small for you. I'm, like you said, and I'm from the Netherlands. That's where I live. I did live in the United States for 6 years, and I loved it. So I'm trying to get my way back there, not living, but working. And how did my journey as a single mom start? That was quite a challenge in my life, let's say it that way. When I was, let's say, when I was pregnant for my first one, I got into a wheelchair, a lot of problems. And 8 years I was at home, not doing anything, couldn't do too much. My husband from that time, he had kind of trouble with that he had before that a very active wife. We traveled the world and things like that, and suddenly I was wheelchair bound. I was not doing too much, and then I got pregnant of my second one. And when my second one was born, basically I thought I was the real happy camper. I had a boy, I had a girl. I was like, wow, we just bought a house. This was it. I had everything I needed. With the second one, I got special therapy. So I got out of my wheelchair, doing everything, etc. So I was top of the world. Then 2.5 months after my second one was born, my son, there was another kid born. There was a little baby, and that turned out to be the half brother of my son. My husband had 2 wives pregnant at the same time, and he decided to leave us, to go to the other place. So that was a big slap in the face, starting to be single mom, just buying a house. I was still full of hormones, of course. Every mom knows how that feels. And that was very stressful. So when he decided to leave, I decided I have to be self-supporting. Of course, I need to get money somewhere. I was lucky I was on how do you call that, disabled care? How do you call that? That I couldn't work actually. So I decided, so I had some money, a very basic money coming in, but I wanted that different. And I started my journey as a trainer coach. I started learning for that, get my diplomas, etc. So it was really hard working. Turned out that my 2 kids, let me see, my son had a very rough time. I had a very rough time with him, and he was like crying a lot, mad a lot, as baby already. We had a lot of things going on, and it made it for me in my life not possible to start actually working. I had to be there for the kids. When he was very young still, he never wanted to go to his father. It was a real trauma for him all the time, but he had to go. We had this decided with the judge. So there was a lot of emotional stuff for him going on, but for me as well. Seeing your kid every week hanging on the doors, not wanting to go to his father, etc., it does something with you as a mom. So I was like tense and more tense, and I built it up. In the meanwhile, I was really trying to be there for the kids and to try to do more with my education, so I still somewhere could start working. So I was actually year after year, I was just like putting in energy, couldn't sleep at night because I had a crying kid every night for years, 6 years in a row. So finally, my energy, where I thought I still have some energy, it was slowly going down. And I think everybody here knows that you slowly get used to the level where you are and you think you are doing okay. Turned out that at one point, I did not do okay. I got into a burnout, went to the doctor, and they said, just take it easy and it will be okay. So I did that, turned to my second burnout from that, did the same action, take it easy. And finally, when I got like within 3 years in my third burnout, I thought like I need to do something. I had an education as a nurse for 20 years. I had an education as a bioenergetic therapist, which is psychotherapy with body work. So I really knew I need to do more than just take it easy. So I went deep into myself. And at the same time, I started Heart Coherence that came on my path. And I'm the kind of person who believes that when something keeps coming on your path, it's telling you something. And that's what Heart Coherence did. So finally, I thought, okay, I need to do something. So I started Heart Coherence. And man, did I learn what relaxation was when I started that. I thought I was relaxed a lot of times, but I learned what real relaxation felt like. I was sitting behind my computer because that's where I did Heart Coherence like 3 times a day for half an hour. And I told everybody I'm hooked to my computer in a different way that kids are nowadays. I was like doing my exercises. And why? Because every time I was sitting there, it was like all this load was falling off me. And it was like, wow, a world opened up again. And I felt like great. So every time, like after so many hours, I could feel the stress little building up a little bit. So, oh no, that's not going to happen again. I want to be relaxed. So that's why I did it 3 times a day. And the weird thing was 1.5 months, I was out of my burnout completely. And I had more confidence, self-confidence, feeling of self-worth, energy, everything you long for. I had that back. And I started my own company even, which I wanted for 20 years, but I never had the guts for it. And now I felt like I have this guts. It was amazing. The only thing is, I didn't understand, why can I be out of this burnout so quick? So I decided to do the education on Heart Coherence. And I don't know if you have an expression, we have an expression here that all quarters fell into place. And it was like, now I understand, wow, it is so easy to get out of a burnout and stay out of burnout and to regulate your own stress levels. I just had to make it my job. I did in all of meanwhile, I had done my trainer coach education. I decided to start as a coach because I could make my own hours also, which is possible with the kids because they needed a lot more attention. Because the problems with my kids stayed. What my son needed was really the opposite of what my daughter needed. And after a while, but I never could, my husband did not let me do, how do you call it, research on what was going on with the kids. Go to a doctor and find out things like that. He wouldn't let me do that. And then finally, after my son, and that always touches me again, I'm sorry for that. When he started, when he was 7 years old, he said, I don't want to live no more. I want to die, because he felt dumb, etc. And that was the point that my husband, ex-husband, finally decided it's okay to find out what's going on with him. And that's why we figured out that he had a autism disorder. It was like, you don't want to put a stamp on a kid, you definitely don't. But having this clear, it was like heaven. I got, I got tips on how to go around with that. I had searched for that for years, and it was like beyond my power, even as a therapist already. But Brittany, always for the people around you. You don't know it for yourself. So I was so glad. And I also finally, for the first time in my being a mom, I heard somebody saying, you did a great job, because I always went on my intuition to go around with my kids, and the whole world, my family, my friends, my ex-husband, they all said, you're doing it wrong. You shouldn't do it like that. You should go around with the kids that way. You should be tougher and things like that. I sticked with my intuition and my knowledge and my feelings. And finally, I got to hear from a professional that I had done the right thing. So it was like, gosh, a load that fell off my shoulders.
Absolutely.
So
I think that's a huge key point of, as a parent, trusting your intuition. Like when everyone in the world around you, except for the professionals, but like you were getting so much feedback of you're doing it wrong, you're not doing it right, and you just trust. What did it take from you to just stand up and continue every step of the way to trust your intuition?
It was like all the time I had this, call it voices, inner voices, I don't know, that kept saying, you are doing the right thing, stick with it. And actually looking at my kids, how glad they were to be with me. Even my son having his tantrum, he had autism and ADHD. So that's a great combination if you want to have someone who needs a lot of attention, doesn't want to listen, and is really busy. It keeps you busy. And it was like, I just felt like I had to do it. And I also went to what we call here alternative medicine with him, like kinesiology. I don't know if you have that over there, kinesiology. Might be a different word, I don't know.
Is it more like exercise, physical based?
No, it's also working in the energy field.
Okay.
And it was amazing how that worked for him. A lot of his anger went down, and I had a lot more. I really believe nowadays nobody even recognizes him being having autism or ADHD. Nobody even knows it. They don't see it. They don't feel it. Nothing. And I really think that has changed him a lot. And that's also psychological help. And this lady could feel, and they tap into certain points. Don't ask me what it is, but it's very well known here in Holland. So that's where things turned to be a little bit better, everything. But still, they both needed more attention than I could. So I wanted to start my own business, but every time when I started and I went up a little bit with my business, meant I had more hours of working, and they couldn't handle that. Especially my son couldn't handle that. He needed my time and my attention and me being there. So my business went like ding until like 2 years ago when he turned 18. I said, now it is my time. Now it's Carla, and it's not only mom, but it's also Carla. And so 2 years ago, I decided to really kickstart my business and stay busy with it. And then even being 18, I felt like I needed to get some more time off than I wanted. So for him, and that's okay. That's what you do as a mom. You don't even want something else than when you see they need it. Nothing comes between that.
Absolutely. And so I do have a few other questions too. With you being in the wheelchair from your first pregnancy, what was it that caused that initially? Are you able to share that, or do you want to keep that private? Or
no, that's okay. No, I was working as a nurse at that time when I got pregnant, and in my pregnancy, I was just about I think it was 6 weeks pregnant, and I would go to my father on Thursday to tell him I was pregnant, and on Tuesday he got a massive brain bleed, CDH. No, I don't know how you call that there, but it's and he died before I could tell him by live that I was pregnant. And now I forgot, what was your question? Gosh, I'm so back there. I forgot your question. Oh, the wheelchair, yeah. At the same time, working as a nurse, I was lifting somebody very heavy who was falling to the ground, and I cracked my back. So that was a combination that got me. And then it turned out also that I had pelvic instability. So that was not a good combination. I went depressed because I was suddenly starting to be a mom. I was actually, how do you call it again? A kid without parents.
Orphan.
An orphan. And that's in my brain. It was all way too much what happened there. So the whole total picture, I could not basically go around with my own body to make it better. And it only got worse with everything going on. So that's how I ended up in the wheelchair.